All right, let's jump right in. We're going deep on some Copa del Rey action today. We're gonna break down, uh, all those crazy moments from the round of 32.
Oh, yeah. The round of 32, I mean, that's where it gets really interesting. You got teams from all over, different levels all battling it out.
Exactly. And looking at these recaps, it's clear that anything can happen in this tournament.
Absolutely. And this round certainly didn't disappoint. There were some real shockers in there.
Well, let's start with the big guns, shall we? Real Madrid just straight up dominated Club Deportiva Minera 5-0.
Yeah, not even close. But, it wasn't just the scoreline. It was the way they did it. They were just on another level. Real Madrid really showed their depth in this one, bringing out some younger players, mixing it up with the veterans.
Right, they weren't messing around. And Barcelona followed suit with their own 4-0 win against UD Barbastro.
Or absolutely. It was a clinic. Barcelona just controlled the game from start to finish. Their signature style was on full display.
Yeah, that tiki-taka is something else. But I gotta ask, were these wins, really that impressive? I mean, the competition wasn't exactly top tier, right?
Yeah, that's a fair point. But you got to remember, both teams used this opportunity to rotate their squads. They weren't going full strength. And even with some key players resting, both Barcelona and Real Madrid really showed their tactical prowess.
So it's more about the strategy than just pure talent.
Yeah, exactly. This stage of the Copa del Rey is all about strategic squad management. You got to keep your players fresh for the tougher matches ahead.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got the big boys flexing their muscles, but as you said earlier, the Copa del Rey is known for its upsets.
Oh, absolutely. And this round had its fair share of surprises.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Let's talk about RC Celta de Vigo versus Racing Santander. What a game.
It went down to the wire, didn't it?
Yeah.
Celta Vigo pulled out a 3-2 victory, but man, Racing Santander really gave them a run for their money.
Yeah, it seemed like Racing Santander was really pushing them to their limits, like every minute.
They were definitely not intimidated. They went toe-to-toe with Celta Vigo. And, for a while there, it looked like they might actually pull off the upset.
That back and forth action was insane. I mean, talk about unpredictable.
Absolutely. And that's what makes the Copa del Rey so exciting, right?
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. The underdogs can really make some noise.
Absolutely. So we've got the dominant giants and a taste of the Copa del Rey's unpredictable nature. But what about the other matches? Anything else jump out at you?
Well, there were definitely some other interesting results. Valencia CF, for example, they secured a solid 2-0 win over CD Eldense. But what's interesting here is the contrast in style compared to, say, Barcelona. Valencia was all about efficiency, controlling the game, and minimizing risks. Very different approach.
So are you saying that a variety of approaches can thrive in the Copa del Rey? Like, it's not just about who has the biggest names or the flashiest style?
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you. Take CD Leganés, for example. They had to grind out a tough 2-1 victory against FC Cartagena. It wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. Their win was a testament to their tenacity and resilience, demonstrating that even without flashy play, a determined team can advance.
I like it. Underdog spirit. It's like you're saying different teams are using different strategies to navigate this tournament, so it's not just about individual talent, but also about the team's overall approach.
Absolutely. And then you had Real Sociedad quietly cruising to a 2-0 victory over SD Ponferradina.
Yeah, Sociedad kind of flies under the radar sometimes, but their performance was pretty convincing. I mean, do you think they could be a dark horse in this competition?
They're definitely worth watching. They've been steadily improving, and their tactical discipline is remarkable. It's a stark contrast to some of the more, free-flowing teams we've discussed.
It's like they're playing a different game almost. But hey, that's the beauty of the Copa del Rey, right? It's a melting pot of styles and approaches.
Exactly. You got everything from the high-pressing intensity to the patient, possession-based game. It's all on display.
All right, so it sounds like the round of 32 was more than just goals and wins. It was a showcase of the strategic depth this tournament has to offer. And speaking of strategy, do any of these outcomes give us a glimpse into what we might see in the round of 16?
Well, the possibility of a Real Madrid-Barcelona clash is definitely looming large. But as we've seen, underestimating any team in this competition can be a costly mistake.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So you're saying we should be prepared for some surprises. Speaking of surprises, which result from the round of 32 stood out the most to you?
I gotta say, that Celta Vigo match really caught my eye. The way they were tested and ultimately triumphed, it speaks volumes about their character and the spirit of the Copa del Rey itself.
Yeah, that resilience is definitely something to watch as the tournament progresses. Now, I want to shift gears a little and get your expert take on something specific. So let's rewind a bit and zoom in on Real Madrid's young talent. I mean, looking at this match report, wow, their performance against Minera was something else.
Yeah, Real Madrid's youth academy, La Fabrica, it's legendary, always churning out world-class players.
Oh, yeah. I mean, remember those Galacticos teams back in the day? A lot of those guys came up through that system.
Exactly. And it seems like they're on that path again with this current group of youngsters. What impressed me wasn't just the individual skill, it was their understanding of Real Madrid's philosophy. They fit right into the system. They were creating chances for each other, playing for the team.
Real Madrid is definitely building something special there. All right, now let's talk about Barcelona. They absolutely dismantled Barbastro, right? I mean, that passing, that movement, it's poetry in motion. But part of me wonders if the 4-0 win was more about Barbastro's weaknesses than Barcelona's brilliance.
Yeah, that's a good point. You always have to consider the context, right?
Yeah.
Barcelona was facing a lower division team, so naturally there was a gap in quality.
Yeah.
But even so, I think their performance highlighted how effective their system can be. Even against a weaker opponent, they controlled the tempo, limited Barbastro's chances. It was a masterclass in game management.
So even though the opponent wasn't as strong, there are still valuable lessons to be learned from Barcelona's approach.
Absolutely. It's always insightful to analyze how top teams adapt their strategies to different opponents. And in this case, Barcelona's emphasis on ball retention and that patient build-up, well, it was clearly a key factor in their victory.
Okay, you've convinced me. Now let's get to that Celta Vigo versus Racing Santander match. Talk about a roller coaster of emotions. Celta went down early but clawed their way back to win 3-2. Were you surprised by Racing Santander's performance?
Honestly, yeah, a little bit. They showed a level of intensity and tactical discipline that I wasn't expecting. They came to play, that's for sure. And for a while there, it really looked like they might pull off the upset.
Yeah, I bet that was nerve-wracking for Celta Vigo fans. It seemed like their team was on the back foot for a good chunk of that match.
Yeah, Racing Santander was pressing high, forcing Celta Vigo into mistakes. And their defense was organized, tough to break down. They really made Celta Vigo work for that win.
But in the end, Celta Vigo found a way, right? What was the turning point, you think?
I think Celta Vigo's experience and individual quality, it just shone through in the end. They have players who can make something out of nothing, and that's what happened.
Yeah, their resilience was pretty impressive. But I think this match was so compelling because it reminds us that in the Copa del Rey, anything is possible.
Exactly. You get these David versus Goliath battles.
So,
These incredible upsets. It keeps everyone on the edge of their seats.
all right, before we get too caught up in the drama of potential upsets, let's touch on some other results. What about CD Leganés' 2-1 win over FC Cartagena? It wasn't the prettiest game, but they got the job done.
Yeah, Leganés, they're all about tactical flexibility. They weren't afraid to adapt their game plan to counter Cartagena's strengths. They did what they had to do.
So more about strategic execution than individual brilliance.
Absolutely. It was a gritty win, hard fought. And it shows that sometimes pragmatism can be just as effective as flair.
Love it. So we're seeing all sorts of different approaches, which is what makes this tournament so great. Now, what about Real Sociedad? They seem to cruise past SD Ponferradina with a 2-0 victory. Think they're a team to watch out for.
Definitely a team to keep an eye on. They've been building momentum, flying under the radar a bit, and their tactical organization is really impressive. They control the game, create scoring opportunities. They could be a real threat as we get deeper into the tournament.
Yeah, that under-the-radar thing might actually work to their advantage. Opponents might underestimate them, and bam, surprise.
Exactly. All right, I think we've hit all the major points from the round of 32 upsets. Dominant performances, some real nail-biters.
Yeah, it was an amazing round. So, on to the round of 16. What are you most excited about?
Well, a Real Madrid-Barcelona matchup is always going to be huge, right? It's like the clash of the titans. But honestly, I'm just as excited to see if any of those underdog stories keep going,
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, who knows? Maybe Racing Santander or CD Leganés, maybe they can make a real run. I mean, that's what makes this tournament so awesome, right? It's anyone's game.
It's true. All right, enough dreaming for a sec. I got to ask, looking back at the round of 32, which team surprised you the most? And more importantly, who are you rooting for going into the round of 16?
That's a tough one. But I gotta say, Celta Vigo, the way they fought back against Racing Santander, that really impressed me. They could be a dark horse,
Yeah, that was a wild match. It shows that even when things look tough, a little bit of experience and a little bit of magic can make all the difference.
Totally. I mean, that's what knockout competitions are all about, right?
Yeah.
Every match is like life or death, do or die. It brings out the best in players. And it reminds us that sometimes, it's not about being the strongest or the most talented. It's about heart. It's about who wants it more.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what happens next in the Copa del Rey. Will the favorites stay on top? Will we see more upsets? Only time will tell.
That's why we love this sport. It's unpredictable, it's exciting. And that's a wrap for us today, folks. Be sure to tune in next time as we continue our deep dive into the Copa del Rey. We'll be back with more analysis, more insights, and more excitement as the tournament heats up.